Hi, behind me is a 2006 Four Winds Hurricane Model 34N. As you can see, it is a nice looking motorhome. We have just returned from a 2-week road trip from New Hampshire to Detroit, Michigan, Indianapolis, Indiana, Kent, Ohio, and back to New Hampshire. In that 2 weeks, I spent 11 days driving this. We accrued a little under 2,400 miles. So this is my review. This review is of my personal opinion and my personal experience with this particular motorhome. I have no experience with other Four Winds products, nor do I expect to. This is certainly not an attack on anyone who owns one of these. It's a nice motorhome. I think if you use it within what it was designed for. I'll explain more as this video goes on. Let us start with the exterior. I find that these doors have cheap latches and cheap locks. I mean, we used these things on poker machines way back in the 80s. Most campers I've seen have a recessed handle, like a toolbox lock, like a truck toolbox lock. To hold this door up, they have these cheap plastic clips which hold that open. I think there could be a better alternative to that. I would have preferred, as I said, a recessed handle latch in here and hydraulic pistons to hold this open. Why? Follow with me here. This would be fine if this was available on every door of this vehicle. You have one here. You do not have one here. Anywhere there's a slide out, it does not have a clip to hold it up. Of course, this wouldn't fit anyway because you have the two outlets right here, which I think are poorly placed. They could have been placed here or someplace else where they didn't interfere with the door, but it doesn't matter. We don't have a clip to hold it open anyway. The biggest compartment on this side does not have a clip to hold it up, nor does the forward compartment, which is the tunnel which goes all the way through to the other side, albeit that tunnel is small. This is a deep storage pocket. However, there is not much more than 8 inches to go from one side to the other. And yes, there's a lot of stuff in this. It's not mine. This belongs to my father-in-law. He purchased this 3 years ago with 8,000 miles on it. He purchased it for $74,000. The MSRP on these is $94,000. So these doors have no way to be held open with the exception of using your hand or resting the door on your head. I think for nearly $100,000 there should be a better way to keep these doors open. Moving along to the front. Your pre-trip inspection should always include checking your fluids and your tire pressures. The way you access front of the engine is you need a barrel key. There are 2 locks. I've already used that one. We open this. And now you swing that up out of the way. To check your oil, your dipstick is here. This is the V10 Ford gas motor. You continue with your dipstick until it is out. You'll see here, I'll put the end of the dipstick on the ground. I'm 5'11". This is pretty close. That's a long damn dipstick. So our oil level is fine. Dipstick is returned to where it belongs. There's your brake fluid reservoir. Here is your transmission, which fouls. It's underneath the electrical door. So if you pull it, it pulls the door off. So you have to push the tube down and then remove the stick and then fiddle fuck around to get it back in place. Kind of annoying. Here's your oil fill. I don't know if you can quite get the perspective on video here, but there isn't a lot of room here. It could be worse, but you're not going to put a funnel and pour it from the outside. You're pouring inside from the bottle. Perhaps you could get a tiny funnel in, but my problem with that is that increases the chance that you're going to spill oil here in the engine compartment. And while the exhaust is far enough back, you don't have to worry about oil getting onto the manifolds and stinking the motorhome out. You're still going to make quite a bit of mess that's going to hang all over the transmission cooler, AC condenser, and the radiator. Battery is located here. The comical part is your washer fluid jug. It is zip tied, plastic tie wraps, to the grill. Which brings us to the point of, as soon as you reach interstate speeds, 55 miles per hour and up, this has what sounds like a horrendous vacuum leak, except it's pretty much continuous and varies with speed, varies in intensity with speed. That was the first of many different noises that we found this to have, and upon a little research when I got home checking on the internet, I found that these grills are defective. They replaced the grills to get rid of the constant whistling noise, and they went to a thicker honeycombed grill, thicker this way and thicker cross pieces. One of the complaints I found online was that the whistling noise actually went away in the rain, which would make sense. Water's beating up around the grill, noise goes away. We didn't hit any rain on our trip, besides at night a couple nights when we were parked. So, but anyway, that closes up this area. And I find zip tying the coolant jug to the grill pretty damn cheesy. Again, not something I would expect out of a $94,000 vehicle or even a $50,000 vehicle. If you bought a Hyundai that the coolant jug was zip tied to the grill and you paid $18,000 for the car, you'd be pretty pissed off about how cheaply that was mounted. To close these, you have to push them in. Again, in, and turn it. I'll deal with that when I have two hands to use here. Our lighting is not impressive. These, quote, fog lights are a complete joke. They illuminate about here, right about 10, at most 15 feet in front of you. They are nothing but annoying to vehicles in front of you at night and to vehicles coming at you at night, and they don't offer you, the driver, much lighting. These headlights, I don't understand the logic behind sloping these backwards when you have the complete opposite for the driving lights. These slope in. If you were to drive in the winter, some of us live up here where it snows and do camp in the winter, all snow is going to do is pack in here and block out your fog lights, which is okay, they're useless anyway. Here, again, I don't understand the logic, except maybe the air is to flow here and continue off, but why would you tip the headlight bucket back? I suspect this headlight is actually from some other vehicle, and just they designed the nose to fit and use that headlight from something else, perhaps another Ford product. I'm not that familiar with newer Fords. The 2006 34N provided not one slide out, This is for the kitchen. It actually offers you 3. You have the kitchen, the living room, and a shorter slide out in the back for the bedroom. The living room is substantial. It's quite long. It goes out quite far. This is the bedroom one. Slide out. More about the slide outs in a moment. Your fuel door has a little plastic twist knob with a plastic latch, and the door is plastic. Again, call me critical, but I find that pretty damn cheap. Your sewer hose fits in here if it's of small enough diameter to fit in there. The one for this is not. Here, again, at least this door we can lock, but how much time does one spend in here? Your electrical cord, which you can plug into 110 or 220. You have your gray and black water drains. You have a water pump here. Faucets to rinse out your black water hose, your fresh water supply, or you could switch it to use the water tank, which is located up here. Again, with no latch to hold it open. There's your water tank. Tank capacities are rather goofy on this. I will explain more about that later when I actually have the specs in front of me. I don't remember off the top of my head because at this point it doesn't matter. Our trip is done. So as you see from the chart that I just showed you, this comes with a 65-gallon capacity fresh water tank. Your gray water has a capacity of 44 gallons. Your wastewater is 54 gallons. Now think about these numbers. You have 65 gallons of fresh water on board. That is to shower with, to cook with, to wash your dishes with, and of course a little bit to rinse the toilet when you flush. These don't operate like a normal household toilet where you're using a gallon or a gallon and a half per flush. It's minuscule. My problem is, why would they provide you with a 54-gallon black water tank and a 44-gallon gray water tank? Your gray water is your shower, your dishes, etc. Black water is merely your human waste, your urine, your feces. Why in the hell would they have a higher capacity tank for that as opposed to gray water? If you shower every day, you're going to produce far more gray water than black water. Even if you shower once a week, you're most likely, a family of 4 most likely is going to produce more gray water than black water. So it really is ass backwards and kind of disturbing if you ask me. It's not conducive to a vehicle that you would use on a road trip. And as I said, if this is used for its designed purpose, it's probably great. My idea of using a motorhome, I would use it for a road trip like we just did. 2 weeks, we did not visit a single campground. We're on the road, that's all. You sleep at rest areas or wherever you need to stop, you stop. That's it. So we were not conveniently located near a dumping station. But let us move on. I will offer them Four Winds congratulations for putting the fuel filler on the left side, driver's side of the vehicle, instead of the passenger side, right side. This makes it a little bit easier. Being way the hell back here makes it a little easier to look in the mirror and gauge where the hell the door is to the fuel pump. They were kind enough to provide a 75-gallon fuel tank in this, which you would think, hey, that's nice. 10 miles to a gallon or so, 750 mile range. That should be terrific for traveling with. It's not. Fuel mileage on this thing was flat out revolting. A little background: in 1986 I started driving wreckers. 88 I was in a car carrier. I've run from New Hampshire to Detroit with the car carrier. I did numerous runs to Baltimore, Maryland. I'm used to being on the road constantly, sleeping in the driver's seat of a 1-ton truck, etc., or a low pro, whatever. None of those vehicles that I ever drove back then, from 1986 to 1995 when I stopped running wreckers, none of them, with the exception of one F350 with a 460 in it that was carbureted, none of them got mileage anywhere near as horrible as this. Our first tank, we averaged 5.8 miles to a gallon. That was hauling a light, empty trailer, not an enclosed trailer. In fact, it was the trailer here that is attached to it now. This is a single axle, 12-foot trailer. Doesn't cause much drag. However, we got 5.8 miles to a gallon, and that was a lot of, well, 50% of that run was interstate. The other half was 2-lane roads. So we were not running it much more than 45 to 50 in the initial half of the run. We found this fuel mileage to be miserable throughout our nearly 2,400 miles. The best we got was 6.8. The worst we got was, I believe, 5.7. We have everything written down. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but nonetheless, not great. I am sure if you want to lumber down the highway at 50 or 55 miles per hour, you could probably push 9 miles to a gallon. I'm very much opposed to vehicles being on the highway that are too damn slow to keep up with the rest of the traffic. The last thing I want to do is endanger my family by getting rear-ended by a tractor trailer. I already have one family member that got fucked up because he got slammed in the ass by a tractor trailer while he was working on a construction crew, driving the tail vehicle with the water buckets and the big flashing arrow saying, "Construction ahead, move the hell over in the other lane." But nonetheless, I don't lumber down the highway slower than everybody else. I try to maintain speed with the rest of them, especially with the trucks. I had about enough of getting passed by numerous tractor trailers in this thing that are going considerably faster than we were. So most of the states we were in, the speed limit was 70 miles per hour. The trucks were running between 65 to 75. So you're kind of in the way when you're doing 55 in this thing. So we generally maintain a speed of 70 to 75, which is the top speed for this. These are regulated to shut the hell down at 75. This one actually would do 77, but when you reach 77 miles per hour, it's like somebody snipped the throttle cable because the pedal does absolutely nothing. That includes downhill. It just flat shuts off and it won't go any faster. Again, probably not a problem for 99% of the people who use these. Just a personal gripe of mine. So let's move to the interior. My apologies for this not being clean, but that's the project slated for today, is to clean it and return it. So bear with me. This chair is a relatively comfortable recliner. However, it is portable, but when it is latched in place via this bracket, when it is latched in place, it is in the way of the door here, in the way of the stairs rather, not the door, and it strikes the window trim, and it strikes the front seat. You think, okay, move it somewhere else. Well, you can, but if you move it, again, that's where that mounting bracket is. If you move it further forward, it strikes the seat. Even worse. So the best you can get is to clear the stairs, but it's now useless. And as it says, it's not to be used while in motion anyway. It's kind of ridiculous. If you can't sit in it while the freaking vehicle's on the road, it shouldn't even be here, in my opinion. I would ditch it. My second gripe, these seat belts, and I'll take a couple of pictures. We see here, these screws are in straight. These are put in at an angle, likely because of the trim for the slide out. Here's a few pictures. You can call me overly critical, but as a motorcycle technician who works on BMW motorcycles and is extremely critical of BMW, I have to say that when you see screws that aren't even put in straight, that is a big, big indicator of the attention to detail and the quality of the build of the product. If they couldn't even get the fucking screws in straight, what's the rest of the vehicle like? Let us continue. The driver's seat, while it is horribly, I don't know that I would say horribly, I find the driver's seat uncomfortable. Granted, there's an ass for every seat, and everybody's got to have different preferences on the seat. We started off, they're leather seats. I put a cover on it to keep my body a little cooler and not be sticking to the damn seat. That's besides the point. The seat is not very comfortable for me. The seat is also an incredible 13 inches away from the wall of the side of the vehicle. That's kind of akin to getting in your regular truck or car and sliding one ass cheek inboard past the right-hand side of your steering wheel and driving down the road like that. It's kind of strange. The other gripe I have is when this, obviously you're not traveling down the road with a slide out. When this is in, the seat has to be nearly in this position, which limits your range, the adjustability. The seat can go back further, but not with the slide out in, and you can't recline the seat if the seat's back as far as it'll go with the slide out in, because it strikes the slide out. You also, before you deploy the slide out, you have to move the seat forward and upright, or it snags on the edge of the trim. I feel the slide out should have been moved back 1 foot further. Again, little lack of attention to detail in the design phase of this, because I don't think that should have been like that. Another issue is these damn side curtains. Why these curtains don't go behind the seat belts so that you have more visibility out the side window, especially the passenger side. That's a fair amount of peripheral vision that you've lost because the curtains are in the way. There's no reason those couldn't have gone back to here with a few minor changes. Let's also get to these goofy side windows. All of this glass none of this glass opens with the exception of this little window, and it only opens this much. We do have a screen that comes up, but it too only goes that far. It's the width of my hand. If you don't have an Easy Pass or some type of automatic toll-paying device, it's more than inconvenient to jam your freaking arm out the window and pay someone at the toll booth your $1.50 or whatever you have to pay for a toll. Ridiculous. Moving on to the next item. These are your leveling controls. You would think a $94,000 vehicle camper would have auto levelers. This does not. These are all manual. These were added by my father-in-law, these levels, to assist in leveling the vehicle, because this vehicle does not come with levelers that you can see if you're level or not. There's no indication besides sense of feel and some guesswork. If you deploy a slide out when this is not level, you're running the risk of it jamming. And for most people, I think that would be a crisis, because you're stuck in place unless you can figure how to get the slide out back in. Again, lack of attention to detail. My next gripe. This is your backup camera. Here is your AM, FM, cassette, CD player. This screen does not need to be here. This should be over here. Radio should be closer so that the operator, i.e. me, the chump driving this, should be able to reach the stereo much easier than leaning halfway across the dash. The damn stereo's in the middle of the vehicle's dash. I find that a poor design as well. Same with the climate controls. These should have been placed here, these over here. We move on to these fine, low dollar fans. Oh, that's still going to make noise. We're not going to be able to avoid the damn buzzer because the jacks are down. So we have these cheap fans. You might think, gee, those look familiar. Where have I seen those before? Your mailman has them in his postal vehicle. You know, one of the cheapest vehicles on the road has the same damn fans. These are controlled by your switches here. Driver's side, passenger side. They're not quiet either. Doesn't matter. You most likely will not be able to use them unless you only travel late in the afternoon in an easterly direction or early in the morning in a westerly direction, because you can't deploy your sun visor without it striking the damn fan, unless you crank the fan around backwards, where it does absolutely no good. Now you can deploy your sun visor. And I might add, this sun visor does not release and swivel over to this side. I guess they want that. Maybe that's why they have the curtain here, because when it's sunny, the sun's over on your left, maybe you're supposed to close the curtain and not worry about the traffic outside. I don't know. Next, we'll move on to this TV, which I am sure weighs at least 200 pounds. It is not a flat screen, and bear in mind, this is a 2006 motorhome. I would expect some sort of flat screen, modernish TV. That thing's a dinosaur right out of the late 80s. I don't know if Four Winds bought 25 million cheap TVs from RCA or what, but I can assure you it's heavy, it's inconveniently located, and I don't find any use for any of this storage wasted space up ahead. They could have certainly made this vehicle far more aerodynamic by sloping the windshield and having normal windows like an F-Series Ford pickup truck would have. I think that would have been much more practical. This dash is enormous. Here, throw my pen up there for reference. It is a huge dash. This, while it looks like wood, is cheap plastic. This dash flexes. It rattles. Not what I would expect, again, out of a $94,000 vehicle. We also encountered this horrendous whistling noise through the windshield. It was rather disturbing. And extremely fatiguing, and it certainly cut down my ability to drive longer distances, although I did make it from Kent, Ohio, all the way back to New Hampshire in pretty much one shot with a stop to pick up a motorcycle and have a meal. The wind noise was fatiguing to my passengers. Even my children commented on it. Drove my wife nuts, and certainly was not thrilling for me either. So when we returned, I started looking up some of our complaints with this online, and I found that these windshields actually fall out. This is a known problem with these vehicles, and upon further investigation, we noticed that this is the fiberglass body. The trim has fallen out of place, the weather stripping that holds the windshield in. Here are some pictures.